Uh, Good evening, sir. Hello, sir.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, sir.
Yeah,
So, sir, you are in car. Very sorry to
yeah.
make you speak at this my point of time, sir.
No, it's all right. But I don't want
Let's.
to cause any inconvenience to you people. That's the reason I'm taking out some time. And okay, is it now right time for us to start?
Yes, sir. I will just make a brief introduction of you to the participants, and then you
Sure,
will be
sure,
starting, sir. So,
sure.
dear
Go ahead.
friends, we are having today with Professor Ramesh. He is presently associated with Department of Education and Training, Maulana Azad National Urdu University, Hyderabad. And as I told just before, that he's going to talk on principles of curriculum development. Earlier, he has been associated with Kakatiya University as head of the Department of Education for 2.5 decades. For 25 years, he headed the department for fairly very long period. He has written more than 10 books. He is having more than 35 papers published. He has produced more than 9 research PhDs and more than 20 MPhil. He is member of many academic and administrative bodies in different institutions. He is a Fulbright scholar, USA scholar. He has been awarded University Best Teacher in 97 and National Best Teacher in 2009. So, today actually he called me that I'm not telling what exactly, but as he's traveling and some some unhappening happened in his family, but still he is able to come and sitting in car and is going to interact with us. So it's a great thing, great what to say, sir, devotion towards your jobs that tells the seriousness you take to your job. I'm really grateful to you, sir, that you are sparing your time on this moment. So, sir, this is a group of some 25, 27 faculty members, new faculty members from different universities. So now time is yours, sir. You may start your presentations.
Thank you, Professor, for your good words. And good afternoon to all my young colleagues working in different institutions of higher education, teaching different disciplines of knowledge. Uh, I I'm asked by the HRDC Mizoram University to speak on curriculum development or the principles of curriculum development, which happens to be a very important input that is required for young faculty. I think now, if you are all ready, it will be for 1.5 hours, and we can have brief outline on the principles of curriculum development, followed by some discussion if you are all interested. Otherwise, I can continue up to 4:30. Friends,
Sir,
we are all.
sir, one thing, sir, the participants are not having access to audio. So they will be putting their question in chat box. I will be posing this question to you, sir, towards end.
Okay, okay, it's all right. No issue, no issue. Friends, we are all associated with higher education, and we
Sir, I think some network
basic
problem
things
is
like
there. Got disconnected. Uh, Sir is trying to join again, got disconnected.
what is the problem?
Some network problem, I think, sir, at your end.
My God, I think this is the major issue most of the time. I'm having the data, and most of the time there may not be any problem, but I wish and hope that I will go without any interruption.
Okay. Now
Friends,
it
if
is.
there is any interruption, I'm sorry, because that is the problem of our networking. But I hope the nature will in favor of us to continue my lecture for the coming 1.5 hours without any break in the network. Um, so the accessibility in higher education, yes, we are fairly good, and still we have certain issues with regard to the access in to higher education, particularly people coming from deprived sections of the society, girls and others. But otherwise, we are fairly good, not very lagging behind. And coming to affordability also, if you look at the cost of higher education across the globe, no doubt still we are providing higher education at a very cheaper rate. And in most of the cases, the higher education is almost free for most of the students. Now, the inclusion and the most important problem, inclusion is also an issue, but slowly we are moving in that direction of achieving to the best of our ability to get all groups together on par in the context of higher education. The major problem is the achieving excellence or quality concerns in higher education. This is the major problem and a challenge, because day in and day out, most of the people concerned with education, not only people concerned with education, even outsiders like politicians, bureaucrats, the social activists, everybody will are talking about the quality concerns in education, higher education more particularly, because they are not happy. Even our own students are not very comfortable and happy with the quality that is we are striving to realize in our educational institutions, which require introspection on part of every one of us associated with higher education. No one is happy. The parents are not happy, students are not happy, bureaucrats are not happy, the educational managers are not happy. Then everybody is concerned with quality education, and then it is we are supposed to introspect and start analyzing that where is the mistake lies with, and who is responsible, and how to overcome these quality concerns. Generally, we as teachers, we throw the responsibility on other shoulders by simply saying that I am not responsible. Then if you are not responsible, then else will be held responsible? That is the major question to be answered. But earlier, conveniently, most of the people associated with education, more particularly the teachers, used to say that somebody else is responsible. As such, they are not responsible. But now the society developed a sort of consciousness and the awareness. Now they are pointing that the teachers, whether it's not only when I say teachers, not necessarily the school teachers, even university professors, we are responsible, because we are we play a very important role in the process of education. As such, we have to take the responsibility either this side or that side. And therefore, now this is a major challenge for the teachers associated with higher education in order to achieve the excellence or at least quality in education. This is the fundamental question. Now, quality, when we want to define, is not an easy task, because you can prescribe certain parameters for quality in other aspects of life. Suppose if you want to identify certain parameters for your watch, you can easily say that these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, whichever company address or fulfill these conditions, the product of that company, we can say that a quality one. So like your clothing, like for many things. But when it comes to education, as it is a human enterprise, it's very, very difficult to rather enlist the parameters which will qualify the education as quality. That is the reason, because we are not able to define the quality in education like in any other products, because there it is easy, convenient to define or make certain observations which will enable that thing to realize the quality. But in education, it is not that easy. That's the reason it's very difficult for the teachers to move in the direction of quality, not knowing what exactly we mean by the quality. Sometimes we say the pass percentage will determine the quality. Sometimes people say the employability is the quality. Sometimes providing the way for future life is quality. There are so many uh, things which one can attribute to the term quality in education, whether it is school education or higher education, that doesn't make any difference. But when we say in a very casual and very layman's definition is education, when we talk about the quality, at least the relevance of education. When I say relevance, again, it is a very comprehensive term. It is not just relevant to get a job, and it should be relevant to the life. It should be relevant to the social challenges. It should be relevant to the prospect to issues coming in the society, and so on and so forth. So quality as such, I want to make it very clear, is a very difficult to define in the process of education. Therefore, one can understand as teachers working in higher education how difficult for us to move in the direction of achieving quality. This is one thing one has to keep in mind. The second thing is, when we talk of quality, at least whatever may be the way that we understand, it is not just simply because teachers teaching and its effectiveness just can't determine the quality what we try to understand in terms of quality in higher education. The reason being, earlier people used to say that we are not able to achieve the expected quality in higher education because of variety of reasons. No teacher wants to take the responsibility on their shoulders by saying that we are not able to satisfy the society or the others who are the stakeholders in higher education, because the reason being, the quality, we can't satisfy everybody with certain constraints, which include maybe poor infrastructural facilities, or lack of availability of teachers, or poor curriculum, and poor equipment for supporting the transactional processes, and poor evaluation systems, and so used to say there are many could not be achieved, and right thing, but now that is not. Whether you have curriculum quote that in the early or ancient Indian education, the Vedas, which even today considered to be the most toughest knowledge, is to be imparted by the teacher just because of their commitment and their competency. So they are nowadays taking that example. There were no buildings, there was no fans, air conditioners, and no systematic curriculum. Just Vedas happens to be the knowledge, but our ancient teachers used to impart quality knowledge to their disciples without much infrastructure and other things. Now, why, even after providing all these things, why not we are able to achieve the quality? Therefore, everybody is targeting the teachers. More particularly, my young colleagues who entered into the profession in the recent years, you have to face that challenge, because when earlier people are not having that much of awareness and understanding about the processes, now everybody, that's how recently I read a book. The beginning statement is, who is not competent to talk on education? That is not the case with the medical people. That is not the case with the construction people. That is not the case with the other professionals. But anybody, the parent, illiterate, literate, or traveler, or any for we people who after question, criticism, expectation, under impression that teaching is a most arduous task and profession, teaching as a profession, because it's not that smooth and it is like swimming against the tides, because the expectations of from the teachers, whether you are working in university or school, what that doesn't make any difference, but are multiplying day in and day out. On one hand, the explosion of knowledge; on the other hand, the expectations from the society, the global context and challenges. All these things are creating a complex situation for the uh, teachers working in higher education sector more than any other sector of our education system. So therefore, now we all should aim at how best we can play a constructive role or the expected role in order to achieve the quality. And that is not just limited in terms of transacting the content that is prescribed by somebody to our students. If that happens to be the case, the transactional part, if we limit yourself as professional teacher, that can be attended by more effectively than the individual teacher. That is not just what we expect from a teacher. The teacher is supposed to play an integral part of the entire process of education, which include various aspects. So therefore, in our country, what happened most of the time, the colleges are under impression that my job is only to transact the content that is prescribed by the university or some other bodies. Why should I bother how this curriculum is developed, on what principles it is developed, and how the knowledge of curriculum is important for me? These are certain questions which they never try to address. Simply they think that my job is only to transact whatever that is prescribed by the academic, maybe the responsible for prescribing the curriculum. But now, particularly in the 21st century, across the globe, it is observed that teachers' competency just in transactional method is not sufficient. Teacher is supposed to be well acquainted with all other aspects, which include the curriculum development, evaluation, assessment, and so many other things, management of the institution and other allied support services in the university. All these things do influence the classroom
Sir is trying to join. So be online anytime he will be joining. Actually, he is in the way to somewhere. Sir,
Why? Sorry, there is some. Sorry, between whenever you come across. So now the question is, the teacher working in higher education should be well versed with the principles of curriculum development, because when you look at it, the curriculum development is a very, very important input in the process of education, number one. And when you look at the curriculum and its role in achieving quality or excellence is so important, thereby everyone who is assigned the job of teaching or transaction of the content to the student should be well versed with how the curriculum is developed. Because earlier the curriculum development was not at all a major issue. The reason being the knowledge was limited in the earlier years, and generally, if you look at the history of curriculum development, for example, in the ancient days, the knowledge that was available is very limited. As such, the way how that knowledge is made available, the way it is organized by the sages is the way is the curriculum. There is no much thinking about it. But now, particularly in the 21st century, because of the knowledge explosion, new theories of science, new theories of psychology, new theories of technology, and its intervention into the education, all these things rather made every one of us to look into the basic principles of curriculum development, because it is humanly impossible for anyone to transact entire content in the name of curriculum to the student. Therefore, we have to select what it is to be taught to the students. Thereby, the principles of curriculum development attained more importance, more particularly in the later part of the 20th century, from 1950 onwards. Earlier to that, curriculum development not attracted the attention of the educationists anywhere in the world. More particularly in India also, we never bothered about the curriculum development as a challenging task. That's how the curriculum development is to be developed mostly by the subject experts. They are masters in their respective subjects. We always used to rely upon such people who mastered the subject, and they are the right people to give us the curriculum. But subsequently, even with the good curriculum or the most abstract curriculum or difficult topics included in the curriculum could also fail to help us in realizing the quality. Then people started, it's not the way, because a lot of research has been carried out, and more particularly in 1950s, one W.H. Taylor, he has written first book on curriculum development titled as Principles of Curriculum Development. Because curriculum development is not just a buzzword exercise. Curriculum development should be a scientific one, because we need a scientific curriculum, not science curriculum. Generally, people they confuse between scientific and science. I am talking about the scientific, because if a curriculum planner follows certain principles of curriculum development, the emerging content out of that exercise or that processes is the scientific curriculum. So thereby, that W.H. Taylor has given us certain steps to be followed. The first thing is, earlier the so-called unscientific curriculum, and we are talking about, is developed by no doubt the subject experts, but they never bothered about basic things which are essential for qualifying the curriculum as scientific, because they are experts in their own subjects. Now, it is observed that a curriculum planner, besides is being the master of the subject, he or she should be well versed with certain basic subjects are the basis of curriculum development, which include philosophy of education, which include psychology, sociology, history, economics, and these are all the subjects, and its basic knowledge will enable the curriculum developer to develop a scientific curriculum. For example, why should I, if I am asked to develop a curriculum for chemistry or physics or some other subject, why should I bother about all other things? Simply, if I happen to be the master of the physics or chemistry, I can develop curriculum. Those days have gone, because you are developing the curriculum not in isolation. You are developing a curriculum for a subject like chemistry in order to enable the student to realize the purpose of education, which include the purpose of that particular stage of education. Therefore, the teacher who is asked to develop the curriculum in any subject should be clear with the purpose of education as such. That is why one has to have the basic knowledge in philosophy. That is why we say the philosophy is the basis of curriculum development. Like psychology, for example, when we are teaching, and we are not teaching to uh, something like a stone or a rock or somebody who is not alive, but students are more and more complex beings, or human beings are more complex in their nature. Unless we understand the nature of the student, which include their aptitude, attitude, abilities, knowledge, and whatnot, there are n number of attributes of the individual, and their knowledge is equally good for the curriculum planner, because he is developing the curriculum not for a machine but for the students, and the understanding of the students is most important. I like that sociology, because the curriculum, ultimately the product of education, is supposed to live in the society, and he has to work for the society, and he has to face the challenges of the society. Thereby, even though they are studying the chemistry, but they should also understand the society, its structure, its challenges, its dynamics, and whatnot, all about the society. That is also a basic knowledge for the curriculum planner, whatever may be the subject. Like that history, because nothing is uh, uh, an instant one, and everything is having its own history. Therefore, whether it is chemistry or whether it is education or the society, whatever it may be, we have to have the historical knowledge of that particular aspect. Like that nowadays economics, because sometimes what happens, you might have observed in some curriculum some curriculum developers, they think that the most advanced things are included in our curriculum without looking at other things. Naturally, they are under impression that quality can be ensured just by way of keeping new developments and most advanced contents in our curriculum that will result in quality, but it is measurably failed. Unfortunately, that is the trend which dominated the curriculum development processes in India for a long time, because they are under impression that if we include the recent developments in that respective subject, and if we teach the same thing to our students, quality is ensured. But that measurably failed, because I can cite number of examples both at the school and university level. That is why we have to look at the economics part, because when we are introducing new things to our curriculum, whether our system can afford to provide the required competencies to our teachers by way of organizing refresher and other empowerment programs. Along with that, could the institution provide the required infrastructural and institution facilities to teach that particular topic meaningfully to our students? And all these things are the concerns of our economics. Simply, if you include a topic, something like a computer, when this computer is not accessible and not affordable by an institution, simply incorporating a topic on a computer is of no use. So, like that, this is one thing that we have to be very careful. It is not simply incorporating new developments in any field can never result in quality. Quality can be achieved or attained only by way of effective transaction of the content, and if the student imbibe the same and understand the same and reflect upon it, then only the quality is possible, and the purpose of incorporating such topics can uh, result. Otherwise, it's of no use. So, therefore, the economics and the economic status of the society, or economics of the education, the cost benefit analysis, and all other things are equally important for the curriculum planner in developing. That is why we call all these subjects as the basis of curriculum development. So once the curriculum planner, along with his mastery of the subject, he is supposed to have some basic knowledge with regard to philosophy, psychology, sociology, history, economics, technology, and other things. Not simply say, I am a Nobel laureate in chemistry so that I can develop an effective curriculum. That is not possible, because one should have a basic knowledge of all these things. This is one thing one should remember. Now, coming to the next principles, when we look at the first book, what just already I made a reference, he has identified 4 steps in curriculum development. The first one is purpose of education. Or we have to state clearly, whatever may be the subject that you are teaching, that subject is not outside the ambit of process of education. That subject is within the system of education. Therefore, the aims and objectives that we prescribe for that particular subject should reflect upon the aims and objectives of the system as a whole. System as a whole. Otherwise, if the system expects something and the teaching of a particular subject expects something else, there will be a conflict, and that doesn't enable the student to move in the right direction in order to realize the purpose of education. And you also should remember that purpose of education, no time will be different from purpose of life. After all, education has a purpose. That purpose is nothing but the purpose of life. So thereby, any subject that we include in our curriculum or as an input into our education system should go along with the purpose of education. Thereby, teaching any subject will ultimately enable the student to move in the direction of realizing that purpose. Thereby, they are realizing the purpose of life. That is the ultimate goal of education. So first of all, the curriculum planner, irrespective of the subject to which they are expected to develop the curriculum, they should be very clear in understanding the purpose of education. If you look at Indian higher education, most of us, we are teaching in the colleges and universities, we never bother to know what is the purpose of higher education in this country, what it is the aims and goals of the higher education sector in this country. Most of the time we teach whatever the people prescribe for us to teach. That should not happen, because there should not be any conflict, and one should go in tandem, so that the subject teaching will have its own purpose of realizing the goals of education. The second thing is the selection of learning experience. See, this is a very important aspect, because if anybody is having some experience in the present day curriculum development, what that happens in the university system, because I am associated with the curriculum development for quite a long time in the university, we the experts, we sit together and we pick up some topics, and somebody will say, no, not this topic, no, because I am interested, and I am master of one particular aspect of one subject. Naturally, I want to have my topic to be included, and somebody else, they want to see that that topic is included, and ultimately that will be nothing but collection of the interests of the people associated with the curriculum development, and absolutely they never look into what are the basic criterions that one has to keep in mind in selecting the content, because you can't include the entire gamut of knowledge in your curriculum. You have to be selective, you have to be very choosy in identifying certain things which we have to incorporate as a part of curriculum. But generally people, they suggest their own area of interest or area of specialization, and they want to send it to the universities or the colleges. That should not happen. So thereby there are certain principles when we say the principles, because when we want to have scientific curriculum, and I'm using the word very vehemently, scientific curriculum means everywhere we have to follow certain principles in a very strict manner. Therefore, we can able to develop a scientific curriculum. Now, for selection of learning experience or the content, in simple terms, when I use the word, we have to follow certain things, because two things: content selection is not that easy, because the curriculum planner will be influenced by the outside and inside institutional influences. For example, what is to be taught to the students, even sometimes in the university, for example, some universities, to be frank enough, are labeled as, I don't know why they label, are leftist oriented, or rightist oriented, or this oriented, that oriented. So when you look at it, go through that curriculum, most of the time, we feel that the curriculum is very curriculum is mostly of that nature. That should not be the case. Right? If university or if somebody is having a professor of influencing his own area of specialization to the curricular inputs, instead of that, if we go by certain basic principles, naturally things will become scientific. In such context, for example, if you see, sometimes not knowingly government also will be a force which influence what curriculum is to be developed. Sometimes legal courts also interfere. Sometimes the natural calamities will also influence the curriculum. Sometimes the international agencies, they influence what should be taught to our students. So there are many contexts which come from outside the institution, do influence the curricular development process. We should be conscious within the institution. Suppose, for example, while developing the curriculum, one should be very clear whether how many days the institution does work. Unfortunately, what happens, our curriculum planners, they develop curriculum. Sometimes if you go by that curriculum, even if you teach continuously for 300 days, it is not possible to complete what the curriculum planner expect out of that curriculum. And simply they develop the curriculum. They just dump everything. They never bother how many days the institution will work, how many hours in a day the institution will work, how many real working days the teachers come to the college. They never care, and they want to prepare the curriculum for several pages. Sometimes there is that also very important. Some people, they want to be as detailed as possible. The curriculum will run into pages, and some people, they want to have everything in one paragraph. Which one is correct? We have different theories and different arguments. Both are equally good because it has its own advantage and it has own disadvantage. So I don't want to go into such details. But only thing what I would like to say, we have to be careful with regard to the frame factors of the institution. How many days in a year it will work, how many hours it will work, how many holidays the teachers will get, and so on and so forth. All these frame factors also influence the curriculum development. So what I mean to say, the selection of the content is not that easy. It is very much influenced by several factors. Along with that, we have to keep in mind, in order to make our curriculum relevant, meaningful, scientific, we have to be conscious of societal needs. We have to be conscious of learner needs, because it is for the learner, it is for the student. And unless the curriculum is not student centric, if it becomes teacher centric, it is of no use. And at the same time, we have to also look at the discipline and its requirements. There should be some sort of cohesiveness. In something you start in BSc and the same is repeated, that's not good. If the irrelevant things are incorporated, it's not good in MSc. So we have to see some sort of cohesiveness between what they studied earlier, what they are going to study in future. So like that, we have to take into consideration all these things while selecting the learning experiences. It's not the individual choice. Wherever the subjectivity is involved in doing anything in education, that leads to unscientific approach. When we talk of scientific, it should be objective. There should be a reason for establishing a ground for our way of doing things. And there we be in a position to justify, because I have picked up this particular topic because the subject demands, the comprehensiveness of the subject, the nature of the subject, and the earlier knowledge, and the future challenges in order to move forward, how it helps. All these things one should be in a position to explain. Then only the learning experience can be selected. And only such learning experiences will help us in serving the purpose of realizing the quality. Once you select the learning experience, the third most important step in the curriculum development is organization of curriculum or the learning experiences. The organization, because earlier, if you remember well, some time back, even now in most of the cases, the first unit, second unit, third unit, there may not be some sort of cohesiveness. They keep the units in a fashion of their own individual choice and preference. That should not be the case. Naturally, we have to see whether there is a cohesiveness, there is a sequencing in the organization. For that, there are several models available in the curriculum development, how to organize, whether it is to be organized as a cluster of subjects, whether it is to be organized an independent subject, whether it is to be organized like a project or core curriculum. There are variety, because the time is very limited, and we used to teach this for a year. What I am trying to give you is only the bird's eye view. There are several uh, mm, approaches available, hidden curriculum, then so many things available for the curriculum organization, whether it is to be unitary, whether it is to be topic wise, whether it is to be subject wise, whether it is to be chronological in terms of age in some subjects. So there are variety of strategies that are available for organization of the curriculum. And the last and fourth step is the evaluation, because this is one important thing which is missing in our Indian context. We develop the curriculum, we never bother whether this curriculum is scientific or not. Simply we communicate to the institutions and you follow the same. And sometimes you will be surprised that at the end of the year or in between, even from the universities or the school boards or here and there, we get a communication stating that because of the time constraint, because of some other reason, the third unit is deleted, or the last unit is deleted, or instead of this, you replace this with so many things that happens. Because unfortunately, what happens when the curriculum is developed with some expectations, it is not fair on part of us to implement the same without taking certain precautions by way of conducting a pilot. And we never do that. Simply we prescribe the curriculum and we communicate that it is to be implemented from this academic session. And we never try out whether this curriculum really serve the purpose for which it is developed, whether it is meaningful to the students, whether it is compatible to the teachers who are expected to transact the same in the class. And we never care all these things. This is very unfortunate thing that never happens in other countries. They try out, they ensure, if necessary, they try to revise, they try to refine, and then only they make it open for all the other institutions to follow. So here also, curriculum is, whether aims that are identified are really relevant, like that, whether the learning experiences identified are really reflect the aims and enable the students to realize the purpose of education or not, like that organization, whether the strategy that is adopted for organizing the curriculum really uh, rather smooth in terms of enabling the teacher to transact it effectively, and even enable the student to construct the knowledge in a systematic manner without any gaps. And all these things are to be evaluated even before that is made uh, applicable to the students and the institutions. So here also we have different approaches for curriculum evaluation, that is goal-based evaluation, goal-free evaluation, and certain evaluation strategies are adapted from other disciplines. And also there are evaluation processes from other subjects. So therefore, what I mean to say, friends, curriculum development is a very complex exercise, which is not as simple as we feel. Simply selecting some contents from some resource books and putting them in an order of our choice. That is why, over a period of time, the educationists across the country or across the world realized that the development of curriculum is a very important exercise, and only with the scientific curriculum one can expect quality in education. But unfortunately, what is happening, particularly in the advent of the net, the communication, what people are doing most of the time, the curriculum of other universities or the best universities, one of the world is at fingertip. when you look at the curriculum that is offered in most of our universities, compare with the best that is available elsewhere in the world, we are no way inferior. If not superior, but I can say we are not inferior, whether it is masters or undergraduate or even at school level. But unfortunately, when we look at the product of our system, they are not comparable. Why? Curriculum is good, but they never bothered about our culture, our ethos, our values, our abilities of our students, because something may be good for Oxford. Simply adopting Oxford curriculum or Cambridge curriculum in an Indian university because that is available on the net, and if the same is prescribed, I don't think my students can be comparable to that of the products of the Oxford or Cambridge. So therefore, always curriculum development should be tailor-made, keeping in view all these aspects. Then only we can expect the quality. Even if you prescribe Oxford curriculum, I don't think that quality is possible even at the minimum bottom level, because that curriculum is irrelevant, which is not comprehensive, which is not meaningful to the student who is pursuing higher education in our institutions. So that is why the knowledge of the curriculum is most important, because as a teacher, when some curriculum is prescribed and you are asked to transact the same, you should take some time to ensure on what basic principles the curriculum is developed, whether the curriculum developer has taken all these things into consciousness or simply they developed in a haphazard manner. If they do so, naturally, whatever may be the efforts that you put in into the classroom context may not rather enable you to satisfy, because you are expecting something and the same is not realized because the curriculum itself is not properly developed. So that is why, in general, what I would like to suggest to you all, that as a teacher, irrespective of your subject background, kindly try to understand and acquire some basic knowledge about the principles of curriculum development. When some curriculum is given to you to transact to our students, see to it whether this curriculum is properly or address or follow the principles. If not, you can make certain changes and ultimately you can make it more effective in your teaching. Thereby, your students will learn much better. This is one thing which I mean to say. The second thing is, unless you are well versed with the principles of curriculum development, naturally you can't choose an effective instructional strategy. This is second important thing. Curriculum development and instructional strategy. Because often it is observed in Indian higher educational context, nearly 95 to 96% of teachers are using only lecture method, irrespective of the subjective background. Whether you are teaching chemistry, whether you are teaching history, whether you are teaching philosophy, or including computer science, I observed in several institutions, they never carry the computer. They go on, teach and deliver the lecture like a lecture method. So this is another flaw in our instructional approach in our Indian institutions, because we are not exposed to the pedagogical sciences. Friends, you uh, should be what I can say. You can't simply just get into the class and expect that I can teach much better than anybody else. Don't go with that type of feeling. Second thing is, most of you, no doubt, because unfortunately in this country also, we prescribe whether you are a net qualified, JRF qualified, how many papers you publish, this journal, that journal. No doubt our people whom we are getting into our higher education sector, they are most competent as far as content knowledge is concerned. There is no dispute about it. But for a teacher, it is not just content knowledge is sufficient. As in the case of curriculum development, as I said, all our curriculum is developed by the masters of the subject, but we are ourselves saying that it is very unscientific, because it is not fulfilling many of the conditions stipulated for developing a scientific curriculum. That is why we are not able to achieve the quality. In the same way, the pedagogical science developed across the globe in such a manner as it nowadays exists as an independent discipline of knowledge. You are all masters of subject, but as far as pedagogy is concerned, for the school teacher require 2 years of training or orientation in teaching. If a university teacher definitely require little more than that, because you are dealing with hot nuts. The students who are coming to the university system are not flexible. They are very strong in certain psychological aspects. To make them flexible, to make them really purposeful and towards what we intend to realize, it's not that easy. So therefore, the most important thing is you have to select the most effective transactional strategy. It is not simply following the same method. I am not saying that lecture method is not a good method. There are n number of instruction strategies available. It is left with the individual teacher which strategy is to be adopted. That again should not be the subject to choice. That should be on the basis of several considerations, which include the nature of the subject, the content, and also the nature of the students, their needs, their abilities, and so on and so forth, facilities available in the institution and social context, whatnot. These are all the factors which they are the appropriate strategy. So therefore, your understanding the curriculum is also equally important beside all these technical requirements. If you understand the curriculum and its principles of development, that will drive you to select the most appropriate instructional strategy. And if you follow that strategy, you can conveniently and comfortably communicate the content to the students, where the student learning will be rather accelerated. One thing you all young people should remember, all our purpose is to make our learner or the student to learn more and fast. This is the need of the hour, because knowledge is growing. They have to learn and learn to unlearn and learn to learn. These are all the two important concepts nowadays, because learning to learn is most important and arduous task. Learning to learn is most important thing, is very difficult thing. It's not that easy, because learning itself is a very complex process. So the 21st century demand that learning to learn and learning to unlearn and learning to learn fast, which is nothing but accelerated learning. That is why 21st century is a century where students should learn or habituate towards accelerated learning. You should learn little fast, learn more, learn. Uh, Otherwise, one should not be on par with others in order to make use the uh, education or the knowledge to sustain and survive in the given social context. So that's why the curriculum and understanding of the curriculum, its content, its nature, the way it is organized, and all these things will enable the teacher to select the most appropriate strategy to transact in the class. It is not otherwise. What happens, irrespective of the nature of the content, we use the same method. One topic within the subject may be effectively taught by one particular method, need not necessarily the same method will be effective for teaching the next unit in the same subject, because the nature of the content, though subject may be one, the unit to unit and the nature will differ. Therefore, the teacher has to be quite conscious of the nature of the content, and accordingly they have to select the most appropriate strategy of teaching. So that is why the teaching and curriculum development go together. They are like two sides of the same coin. And if you are more clear about the curriculum development and its principles and the understanding of your curriculum, will enable you to pick up the right method. When you use the right method, you can effectively transact the content. That is how you can facilitate the student to learn much better. That is how you can achieve the quality. You see, this is how the paradigm will work out, and this is how we have to make your teaching more sensible and more effective. Otherwise, simply going and teaching in the class without caring all these things, as Rabindranath Tagore has rightly mentioned, it is nothing but like rain falling up on a sloping roof. See, at the end of the rain, nothing will remain. Like that, even in our university classrooms, teachers will go and deliver lectures, and at the end of the class, if you look back, there is nothing that remain with the student. That should not happen. What is the type of language that we use, or the jargons that we use, the effectiveness we feel that we are doing effectively, but that all is possible and qualify only once the students learn better, because all our efforts as a teachers should be in one direction, that is nothing but making the learning much better, much faster among the students. Learning among the students is what it is expected at the end of the day in any level of education, more particularly in higher education. Now, unfortunately, that is missing. Our students are not focusing more on learning. They are utilizing their vital energies for other purposes. Because that also you can read Arvindo, and he has once made a mention that most of our social conflicts and social movements are attributed to the students, because the system of higher education failed to tap the vital energies that are present with our youngsters for constructive purpose, thereby, as the energy is not destructible, as such, the politicians are making use of their vital energy and using for their ulterior ends. That is why the students are active in certain, maybe sometimes positive or negative or constructive or destructive movements. So now the need of the hour, the youngsters or the teachers working in higher education institutions should work out the strategies wherein they can facilitate the youngsters to make use of their vital energies for constructive purpose. That is only possible enabling them to learn and learn, nothing less than that. So that is why now the knowledge of curriculum development and knowledge about the instructional strategies is made mandatory. That is the same thing reiterated by the NEP 2020. Now, what NEP is saying, and realized that the quality could not be achieved as expected in our institutions of higher learning, because no doubt our teachers are highly competent in respect of their disciplinary knowledge, but most of the people are not oriented to the new technologies and new strategies of teaching. Still, they are following the age old, because most of the students, what they do when they enter into the teaching profession at the university level, they follow the method what the teacher taught more particularly at the university and the research level. So the teacher or the professor with whom they work, this method that they followed is the method they continue to follow. Whether that method may be good when the professor entered into the teaching profession long back, because the students whom you are expected to teach from I taught some 30. So thereby, or the expect than what it was expected sometime back, very limited. Now that is not the case, because knowledge are there, and as such, it without orienting the strategies of teaching and technology of development, and also the knowledge of instructional strategies are equally important. Besides that, just I'm giving you, because it's an induction program to my young friends. Only one thing I am not cautioning you, but sincerely, I am advising with my rich experience in the domain of higher education for more than 3 decades. Now things are very, very complex. We used to say that we don't have the facilities, the curriculum is not good, the payment to the salary, teachers are not fair, and we are now deprived of so many things. But now, thanks to the successive pay revision committees, we, the teachers in the university, are, you will be surprised, my young lecturer will be drawing much more than the district magistrate. That fellow may be having a car and an attender, but my young lecturer salary is slightly much better than the district magistrate. That fellow gets little less salary. But it's not the question of salary, but I'm not very particular, but we need a lot of commitment and conviction. And unless we professionally commit ourselves by way of equipping, not only in terms of just confining to the classroom teaching, you have to introspect and assess yourself day in and day out, that whether you could update your content knowledge, whether you could update your conceptual knowledge, could you update with the new approaches that are made available in the preparation of teaching learning materials and evaluation strategies. Because now I'm surprised to see in some universities, though we switched over to credit system, and still whether grading, credit, they are all new things, and still many of them fail to understand the basic difference, what it is exactly, why we moved from the marks to the subject to the credit hours and all these things. They never you will be surprised in Western societies, these things are there for the last 3 to 4 decades, and they have traveled a long distance and made it so scientific. Every person concerned with higher education is quite conscious of including evaluation. They see to while evaluating whether it is weighed and given. It's not what. So, friends, we are in a very difficult situation, and my sincere advice to all of you, more particularly in the context of NUP 2020, and also the demands that are expected from a teacher in working in the university education are multiplied, and thereby you are supposed to being the best in your own discipline knowledge. Along with that, you have to address so many other things. Then only your services will be really appreciated, and you will live with a lot of satisfaction, not just simply delivering the lecture and getting back home. That is not what it is expected from the university teachers, or for that matter any classroom teacher, because across the globe it is observed that machine can do much better than the teacher, if the teacher's role is confined only to teaching. But when we expect what the teacher is expected to do, if you take all other things into cognizance, no machine can do either today or tomorrow what it is expected from a teacher with his or her physical presence in the classroom. So therefore, there is no threat to us as teachers in the classroom context as far as emerging technologies are concerned. After all, they are all subservient, and they are supposed to facilitate us to perform our job much better, but they can't replace it. That much I can assure you. But only thing is, we have to be conscious of the expectations, and to what extent we are prepared to attend to such expectations, both from the subject discipline, and also from the society, from the students, from the bureaucrats, from the planners and managers of education. So therefore, your job is going to be a very challenging one. And in addition to this, another important, because as a student of education, I would like to share with you all, lot of research is going on across the world with regard to, because most of the time the quality is the concern. Don't be under impression that we only in Indian context we are talking about the quality and all others are comfortable with quality. No, even in America they are equally concerned with quality, both at the school education and higher education. Simply we may say and satisfy ourselves that they may say that the American schools are imparting quality education or American universities are imparting quality education. The same is the situation. They are not happy. You will be surprised the American parents are not happy with what type of education that they are made available in their own system. But we Indians, when we visit and look at their school system, oh, it's so good. So it's only a comparison, but much depends upon the satisfaction of the individual societies. So therefore, here lot of research is going on across the globe with regard to working out new strategies in order to facilitate associated with higher education quality assurance. This is the research that we are carried out, which include the evaluation, which include the instructional strategies, which include so many other aspects which will contribute to the quality assurance in higher education. In that context, one thing that is institutional, because see, for example, in one institution, coming to your HRDC, just I will take simple example. Since last 20 years, I am associated with HRDC institutions. When it was started, if I am right, around 90s, the HRD classrooms are conducted in the college classrooms. The benches that were occupied by the students are meant for the teachers who come for this refresher or orientation program. And there was just like any other classroom. In any university, they used to give one classroom. But now, over a period of time, wherever you go, all HRDs are air conditioned, very comfortable accommodation with all technological support, the boards and everything, e-classrooms and whatnot. But don't misunderstand me. But the challenge and the satisfaction that I got some 15 years back, 20 years back is not the case with the present day young teachers. They are so casual. Always I say, yes, suppose if you know all these things, what I am trying to transact with you, tell me. Or you ask something else. But just they sit, and more particularly with this online, they come and join, and whether they are there or not, nobody knows about it. But they want at the end of the day some certificate. Sometimes I feel, as a senior teacher, working in the field of higher education for the last 3 decades, my sincere advice to all of you as young teachers, take it very seriously, whether it is online or offline. You are provided with all the facilities. Don't attend the program for the sake of certificate. Certificate is not going to qualify as the best teacher in your department or in your future life as a teacher in the university. Your designation doesn't make any difference. Your lecturer, some lecturer, you, because your teaching, your relation with the students, and your commitment to the profession, commitment to the value, that will make you to remember forever. One important thing which I would like, with all these things, still with good infrastructure facilities. You go to any central university or some university, they are providing good facilities and good curriculum, technologies, everything, qualified teachers. But still, people are not happy with the quality, because a lot of research that is conducted in this particular context and identified that institutional environment or classroom environment makes all the difference.
then how to understand the classroom or the institutional environment? If it is a physical environment, you can easily measure. Suppose if it is too hot, you can have the air conditioner. If it is too dark, you can have a floodlight. If you have something that can be measured, but it is not the physical. There is something which is invisible environment, that is the second dimension. That invisible environment, no outside factor can influence and address the things. That invisible, what is visible is your temperature in the classroom. You can correct it. You can make it more comfortable to the students if that happens to be the hindrance in their achievement or in their learning process. Like that light, suppose if that is not comfortable, we can do something. But the invisible, that is the one which is tried out by many researchers across the world. And in order to understand that invisible, they identified certain dimensions, and with which if you can look at it, even that will facilitate us to understand that invisible environment. They identified 5 dimensions. One is physical, material dimension, physical dimension, material dimension, interpersonal dimension, and institutional dimension, and psychosocial dimension. These are the 5 dimensions identified in order to understand the invisible environment of the institution, which is coming in the way of academic attainments of the students, which result in quality education. So the physical, see, sometimes the buildings are constructed in a very big way, but some buildings are very congenial and good for institutional purpose, but some buildings looks like a godowns, and no one feel like making use the same for academic attainments. Like that material, sometimes materials are there that they are not properly used or properly organized, properly arranged, thereby, though they have the materials, but most of the time, because of that, we are not able to get best out of it. The most important thing is the institutional, because no educational institution is exempt. No university, no department, or no in the university system exists independent of others. Even as a faculty member, I exist because of others. Like that, my department with other department, my relationship is very important. You try to understand what I am trying to. I'm sorry. I think this connectivity is a problem at that end, not here. Here it is. The signal is quite good. Hello, am
Yes,
I
sir.
audible?
Yeah, audible, sir. Sometime in between it is dropping, but otherwise it is okay.
I think only 2 drops. This is the last one.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah. Now the interpersonal, this factor considered to be a very, what I can say, very serious factor to be considered by all my young colleagues, because interpersonal in any department, in any institution, if the teachers are not, if they fail to maintain a good rapport or a good relationship, that will cost your classroom teaching. We never bother. If 2 teachers fight outside and they go to the same class, and why it influence, the researchers established that the interpersonal relationship among the people working in the department or in the institution make a lot of difference with regard to the teaching learning process that takes place in the institution. Our institutions of higher education are now crippled with this improper interpersonal relations. I don't think this department or that department, this has become a national or a factor. Wherever you go, there is no proper rapport among the faculty. The faculty is divided into two groups, sometimes three groups, sometimes more than that, and sometimes no person will look into the other person's space, and that is how the organization climate or institutional climate is becoming very stiff, and thereby the learning is not taking place. And last one is psychosocial dimension, which is sometimes when you enter into an institution, you feel like learning, which we can't explain further. That is nothing but psychosocial dimension is invisible within the invisible. Suppose if we visit a temple, though there is no light, there is no air conditioning, but still we feel there is something different. Like that, there are institutions where the environment is totally very congenial, but which we can't explain why it happens like that. So that is why the institutional climate or environment is very, very important in the present day. Whatever may be the curriculum, whatever may be the qualification of the teachers, whatever may be the instructional strategies and the technology that the institution will integrate in their teaching learning process, if the institutional environment is not congenial, not in favor of better teaching and learning, the whole purpose of higher education will be collapsed like in a house of cards. Therefore, our role is very important as individual teachers, and as such, we have to be very, very careful. And my advice to all my young colleagues: be conscious of your role as a teacher. You have entered into the profession of teaching, which is a very challenging one, and the days to come are not very comfortable, and they are going to be the days of challenges. And not only in terms of the institutional challenges, you have to address or face the challenges of the nation and the global context. So therefore, friends, I once again advise you all, you come out of the frame that teaching is just transacting the content prescribed by somebody else from the university. You have to be analytical, critical, conscious of the curriculum and understand the principles and acquaint yourself with new teaching strategies and the evaluation procedures and learning material development and so on and so forth. And ultimately, the ability to the parents, with the community, because which is supported by the society. If you can do this, definitely forever, wherever they are, the great soul. Abdul Kalam, when he assumed the, when somebody asked whom he attributed the who taught him at the early young age. So teacher will be always remembered. He never thanked the prime minister or the party who made him the president of India. Such a wise man, a person with wisdom, could recollect the teacher who taught him. So like that, if you want to be in share with you all. And you have 4 minutes time. If you would like to add, I will go. all the details of the curriculum development in a detailed manner, because it's a subject by itself, and its time is very limited. Within 1.5 hours, it is humanly impossible. Just I have given you the broad outlines, and I suggest you, because 21st century is the century where one has to rely more upon self-study instead of attending this kind of programs. You are all learned people. You can learn on your own. And only thing is, the knowledge is also at your palm with your smartphone. You can get number of resources online and textual resources from on curriculum development, which is a very new emerging discipline in the field of in pedagogical sciences, and you can go through it. And I'm sure with this kind of bird's eye view background, you can move forward if you are really interested to emerge yourself as a teacher to be remembered forever by your students. Thank you very much, and God bless you all.
Thank you, sir, for the discussion. So far, we have not received any question in the chat box. So we may finish our session here itself, sir. Now only thank you
Okay.
for coming. So we'll finish the session here, sir, and thanks for sparing your time in this moment. On behalf of all the participants, on behalf of HRDC and the coordinators, I would like to say thanks you for uh, giving us this informative discussion on that topic, sir. Thank you, and I hope, sir, in future also we will associate in some other such courses, sir.
Okay. Thank you. All the
Thank you,
best.
sir.
God bless you.
Thank you,
Thank you.
sir. So, dear friend, this was today's session. All 4 sessions we conducted today, and very fruitful discussions we had on today. Now, tomorrow we are going to have 2 sessions. 2 morning sessions we'll be having, and afternoon session is reserved for you for preparation of your presentation.